Oops, where did the Harley-Davidson Keihin CV40 Carburetor go? On the rack is the channel's recently acquired 2001 Sportster XL1200S Sport. I'm going over the bike carefully and doing restorative work. When I purchase any pre-owned motorcycle, my first concern is the caliber of any previous service work. I make corrections accordingly. My standards are high, and at 10,090 miles, the Sportster does need a few things. Sorting this out, I use the official Harley-Davidson workshop manual and parts catalog as my guide. Despite the low mileage having set up for long periods, any carburetor is a candidate for a refresh. Carburetor rebuilding is a routine part of preventive maintenance and tuning. Rubber parts are prone to dehydration and shrinkage, especially when a bike gets stored for long periods. Stale fuel turns to varnish and clogs circuits and jets. Whether your motorcycle is coming out of long storage or has racked up mileage, a carburetor rebuild can restore performance, improve fuel efficiency, and help assure reliability. In getting ready for the rebuild, I stepped up for the CrewWorks ultrasonic cleaning machine and ordered a carburetor rebuild kit from CV Performance. I added an easy-adjust adjustable idle mixture screw to that order and held off on buying a new piston diaphragm and piston. At this mileage, the original vacuum diaphragm is likely in good shape. A new accelerator pump diaphragm comes with the carburetor kit. Ready for the carburetor removal, tools handy and camera rolling, I began removing parts, first the air cleaner, then the backing plate. The carburetor would be next. That's when the big surprise came into view. Instead of the original Keihin CV40, there was a knockoff carburetor in its place. A text exchange with the previous owner confirmed what I suspected. James bought the XL1200S from a broker who negotiated the sale on behalf of the original owner or possibly an estate. 21 years old in 2022, the bike had just over 8,000 miles on the odometer. In preparation for that sale, with the bike's apparent long storage, a carburetor issue was likely. In this scenario, it's easy to visualize a gummed-up, varnish-clogged carburetor, a downside to low-mileage time capsule motorcycles. Unfortunately, despite the bike's sparkle of originality, the quick fix was an inexpensive replica carburetor. James was unaware of that changeout. He rode the bike with a knockoff carburetor. Being a stickler for precision tuning, reliability, and authenticity, I believe a Harley-Davidson XL1200S Sport deserves better. As for the how-to video on rebuilding a CV40 carburetor, a knockoff carburetor won't do. CV Performance makes it clear that their carburetor parts are only an assured fit on genuine Keihin CV carburetors. Originality and factory tune is my priority, and this knockoff carburetor has to go. In the run-up to the planned how-to video on rebuilding a Keihin CV40 carburetor, we'll take a brief detour. The original and even the superseded Harley-Davidson carburetors are no longer available new. I'll share how to search online for a good used and rebuildable Harley-Davidson Keihin CV40 carburetor. Once we have the right core, I'll strip down both the knockoff carburetor and the genuine Keihin CV40 and point out the differences between the original equipment Keihin carburetor and a typical aftermarket knockoff. You can decide what works for your motorcycle. After that, we'll pick up where we left off and complete the how-to rebuild of a Keihin CV40 carburetor. Here are some tips on the safe removal of the Evolution Sportster carburetor and fuel tank. Notice that this air filtration system is an aftermarket K&N filter and backplate. To service a stock OEM air filter, refer to the factory service manual for your bike. Use the right size screwdriver to assure a safe removal of this chrome cover. This is a K&N filter and backplate. I'll use a K&N cleaning kit and re-oil with the K&N special oil. These small, hex-headed screws hold the plate to the carburetor face. When I reinstall the plate, I'll use Loctite Blue medium strength on these screws. You don't want these screws to fall through the carburetor and into the upper engine. They could cause severe damage. Use the right tools, in this case a hex head T-handle. Here I use a hex head 5/16 socket to remove the plate bolts. These are actually breather bolts. They're hollow and are the ventilation for the crankcase. These bolts screw into the aluminum threads in the cylinder head. Use care and caution when handling these bolts. I will use Loctite 242 medium strength on the bolts when I reinstall them. I never use Loctite Red 272 on aluminum threads. This is a 49 state model and does not require California emissions equipment. There are no electric solenoids or other parts that came with California emissions. Worth noting, Harley-Davidson no longer has the replacement parts for California emissions. To restore emissions parts on a California model would require used parts from eBay or other sources. The spacer plate is part of the K&N installation. Make sure the plate gaskets are in good condition. Here, I'm testing the accelerator pump on this knockoff carburetor, and it works. The routing of the throttle cables caught my attention. They're misrouted. That curve and bend could actually distort the cable or prevent the throttle from working properly. These EFI-style clamps are very effective. I like the style. It's much better than a worm gear drive. Here I'm removing the fuel hose from the carburetor. I'm detaching the fuel hose at the petcock. The tank will be removed for better access to the carburetor. To relieve tension on the clamp, I'm using a snap ring pliers to spread the clamp apart. Tension relieved, the hose slides from the pipe. I'm using care to remove these bolts. I don't want to scratch this flawless tank. Here, I'm loosening the ground strap to the fuel tank. Don't overlook this. Don't overlook the vacuum line to the fuel petcock either. Somewhere along the line, this vent valve elbow was overlooked. The connector elbow on the vent valve line is torn. A piece of tape was wrapped around the connector to seal it. Time for a new connector from a Harley-Davidson dealer. When removing the carburetor, pry gently. This is aluminum. It's easy to scratch or gouge aluminum, pop metal, or plastic. Protect the aluminum manifold and replace the rubber seal. Disconnect any hoses attached to the carburetor. The enrichment cable is often left on the carburetor and detached from the other side of the engine. Here, I'm detaching the cable from the carburetor. Harley-Davidson calls this the start valve. The start valve and its bore must be a good fit. Here, I'm detaching the start valve from the cable, removing the spring and the start valve, which will be cleaned along with the carburetor parts. It's fascinating that these carburetors can be produced and sold for such low prices. Again, this is a knockoff of the Keihin CV40. Drain, save, and dispose of gasoline safely. I want all the gasoline to evaporate before placing carburetor parts in fresh ultrasonic cleaning solution. This rubber grommet must seal completely to protect the engine. Always replace the grommet. So here we have the knockoff of the Keihin CV40 constant velocity carburetor. Cast in aluminum, this is a featherweight carburetor. Once we have a genuine Keihin CV40 carburetor core, we'll take both carburetors apart and compare them. Any of you who have experience with these aftermarket replacement carburetors, let us know how well or not well these carburetors work. I'm curious how long they last and the durability of the parts.